Chapter 5 Part B. He came back with a character that closed the doors of all his family against him, my lady, then just married, taking the lead, and declaring, with Sir John's approval, of course, that her brother should never enter any house of hers. There was more than one slur on the colonel that made people shy of him, but the blot of the diamond is all I need mention here. It was said he had got possession of his Indian jewel by means which, bold as he was, he didn't dare acknowledge. He never attempted to sell it, not being in need of money, and not, to give him his due again, making money an object. He never gave it away, he never even showed it to any living soul. Some said he was afraid of its getting him into a difficulty with the military authorities. Others, very ignorant indeed of the real nature of the man, said he was afraid, if he showed it, of its costing him his life. There was perhaps a grain of truth mixed up with this last report. It was false to say that he was afraid, but it was a fact that his life had been twice threatened in India, and it was firmly believed that the Moonstone was at the bottom of it. When he came back to England, and found himself avoided by everybody, the Moonstone was thought to be at the bottom of it again. The mystery of the colonel's life got in the colonel's way, and outlawed him, as you may say, among his own people. The men wouldn't let him into their clubs, the women, more than one, whom he wanted to marry, refused him, friends and relations got too nearsighted to see him in the street. Some men in this mess would have tried to set themselves right with the world. But to give in, even when he was wrong, and had all society against him, was not the way of the Honorable John. He had kept the diamond, in flat defiance of assassination, in India. He kept the diamond, in flat defiance of public opinion, in England. There you have the portrait of the man before you, as in a picture, a character that braved everything, and a face, handsome as it was, that looked possessed by the devil. We heard different rumors about him from time to time. Sometimes they said he was given up to smoking opium and collecting old books, sometimes he was reported to be trying strange things in chemistry, sometimes he was seen carousing and amusing himself among the lowest people in the lowest slums of London. Anyhow, a solitary, vicious, underground life was the life the colonel led. Once, and once only, after his return to England, I myself saw him, face to face. About 2 years before the time of which I am now writing, and about 1.5 years before the time of his death, the colonel came unexpectedly to my lady's house in London. It was the night of Miss Rachel's birthday, the 21st of June, and there was a party in honor of it, as usual. I received a message from the footman to say that a gentleman wanted to see me. Going up into the hall, there I found the colonel, wasted, and worn, and old, and shabby, and as wild and as wicked as ever. "Go up to my sister and say that I have called to wish my niece many happy returns of the day," says he. He had made attempts by letter, more than once already, to be reconciled with my lady, for no other purpose, I am firmly persuaded, than to annoy her. But this was the first time he had actually come to the house. I had it on the tip of my tongue to say that my mistress had a party that night. But the devilish look of him daunted me. I went upstairs with his message, and left him, by his own desire, waiting in the hall. The servants stood staring at him, at a distance, as if he was a walking engine of destruction, loaded with powder and shot, and likely to go off among them at a moment's notice. My lady had a dash, no more, of the family temper. "Tell Colonel Herncastle," she said, when I gave her her brother's message, "that Miss Verinder is engaged, and that I decline to see him." I tried to plead for a civiller answer than that, knowing the colonel's constitutional superiority to the restraints which govern gentlemen in general. Quite useless. The family temper flashed out at me directly. "When I want your advice," says my lady, "you know that I always ask for it. I don't ask for it now." I went downstairs with the message, of which I took the liberty of presenting a new and amended edition of my own contriving, as follows. "My lady and Miss Rachel regret that they are engaged, Colonel, and beg to be excused having the honor of seeing you." I expected him to break out, even at that polite way of putting it. To my surprise he did nothing of the sort. He alarmed me by taking the thing with an unnatural quiet. His eyes, of a glittering bright gray, just settled on me for a moment, and he laughed, not out of himself, like other people, but into himself, in a soft, chuckling, horridly mischievous way. "Thank you, Betteridge," he said. "I shall remember my niece's birthday." With that, he turned on his heel, and walked out of the house. The next birthday came round, and we heard he was ill in bed. 6 months afterwards, that is to say, 6 months before the time I am now writing of, there came a letter from a highly respectable clergyman to my lady. It communicated two wonderful things in the way of family news. First, that the colonel had forgiven his sister on his deathbed. Second, that he had forgiven everybody else, and had made a most edifying end. I have myself, in spite of the bishops and the clergy, an unfeigned respect for the Church, but I am firmly persuaded, at the same time, that the devil remained in undisturbed possession of the Honorable John, and that the last abominable act in the life of that abominable man was, saving your presence, to take the clergyman in. This was the sum total of what I had to tell Mr. Franklin. I remarked that he listened more and more eagerly the longer I went on. Also, that the story of the colonel being sent away from his sister's door, on the occasion of his niece's birthday, seemed to strike Mr. Franklin like a shot that had hit the mark. Though he didn't acknowledge it, I saw that I had made him uneasy, plainly enough, in his face. "You have said your say, Betteridge," he remarked. "It's my turn now. Before, however, I tell you what discoveries I have made in London, and how I came to be mixed up in this matter of the diamond, I want to know one thing. You look, my old friend, as if you didn't quite understand the object to be answered by this consultation of ours. Do your looks belie you?" "No, sir," I said. "My looks, on this occasion at any rate, tell the truth." "In that case," says Mr. Franklin, "suppose I put you up to my point of view, before we go any further. I see 3 very serious questions involved in the colonel's birthday gift to my cousin Rachel. Follow me carefully, Betteridge, and count me off on your fingers, if it will help you," says Mr. Franklin, with a certain pleasure in showing how clear-headed he could be, which reminded me wonderfully of old times when he was a boy. Question the first: was the colonel's diamond the object of a conspiracy in India? Question the second: has the conspiracy followed the colonel's diamond to England? Question the third: did the colonel know the conspiracy followed the diamond, and has he purposely left a legacy of trouble and danger to his sister, through the innocent medium of his sister's child? That is what I am driving at, Betteridge. Don't let me frighten you. It was all very well to say that, but he had frightened me. If he was right, here was our quiet English house suddenly invaded by a devilish Indian diamond, bringing after it a conspiracy of living rogues, set loose on us by the vengeance of a dead man. There was our situation as revealed to me in Mr. Franklin's last words. Who ever heard the like of it, in the 19th century, mind, in an age of progress, and in a country which rejoices in the blessings of the British Constitution? Nobody ever heard the like of it, and, consequently, nobody can be expected to believe it. I shall go on with my story, however, in spite of that. When you get a sudden alarm, of the sort that I had got now, 9 times out of 10 the place you feel it in is your stomach. When you feel it in your stomach, your attention wanders, and you begin to fidget. I fidgeted silently in my place on the sand. Mr. Franklin noticed me, contending with a perturbed stomach or mind, which you please, they mean the same thing, and, checking himself just as he was starting with his part of the story, said to me sharply, "What do you want?" What did I want? I didn't tell him, but I'll tell you, in confidence. I wanted a whiff of my pipe, and a turn at Robinson Crusoe.